Hello there. I'm going to try to start a YouTube channel. There's going to be two different things on my YouTube channel. One is going to be YOLO astrology, which is going to be I'm going to be reading what's going on with the planets and then interpreting how that applies to your sun sign with a twist. And the other thing is I'm the Star Trek conspiracy guy, and I haven't seen anybody else do that niche on YouTube. So I'm going to start off with this video talking about my theory on Lwaxana Troi. So I put this theory out there on Reddit a long time ago, and I didn't think anyone paid any attention to it. But lo and behold, last season of Lower Decks actually played on this idea of mine. My idea is basically that the Betazoids are being used in possibly Section 31, and definitely they're all over Starfleet security. Like, I think, or not, sorry, not security, intelligence. I think most of Starfleet intelligence is comprised of Betazoids. And I think Lwaxana Troi, being a member of the royal family of Betazed, was the one making those deals. And that's why Deanna Troi is sitting to the right of Jean-Luc Picard, not because Deanna Troi is especially qualified or gifted as a counselor. She's not. She's mediocre. You go back and watch Next Generation, and she's definitely the one person who didn't expect that. The one person who stands out on that crew as just being mediocre. Everyone else is exceptional. Worf is the most Klingon there ever was. Data is Data. I mean, he's the most famous person in the Federation. Jean-Luc is the best of both worlds, and nobody else ever seems to say that. Riker, while not being the best of anything, is definitely very qualified and a very good leader and exceptional. And he could have, they said in the show early on, he could have had his own command and chose rather to be next to Jean-Luc. I think because Jean-Luc gave him a sense of security, that was part of it. I think he also saw him as a father figure in a way, maybe. Geordi is an incredibly gifted engineer. I don't know if he's the best in the Federation. He could be. Uh, I'm not going to say anything about Tasha and Pulaski. I don't think they matter. Wesley's a side issue. He's kind of a remainder. And then that leaves us with Beverly. Beverly is an incredible doctor, and she's got an amazing bedside manner. And she's just it. It's perfect that she went into being a doctor because she's one of those people who just loves people, and I think that comes through. That's my interpretation of Beverly. So if I was deciding who was going to be on the flagship as the doctor, I would choose Beverly Crusher for sure. All right, so Deanna though, Deanna's just like, okay. I mean, she has a gift that most counselors wouldn't even have of empathy, and I never really saw like if Deanna. Let's put it this way: if Deanna didn't have empathy, whoa, like not only would she be mediocre, I think she'd be just flat out bad. It's the fact that she did have empathy that just allowed her to even be mediocre. This is just my judgment based on the scenes I've seen where Deanna is actually doing her job, which granted there aren't a whole lot of either. But yeah, nothing ever hit me as being exceptional about Deanna. Okay, so why is Deanna on the flagship sitting next to the greatest captain in Starfleet? Um, and also, I'll get into something. I've got another conspiracy related to Deanna and Data that I think even Lwaxana wasn't aware of necessarily. Um, or maybe she was. She might have been actually. I think Lwaxana wanted her daughter. She wanted the best for her daughter, obviously. If you don't know this kind of personality, my grandmother had the kind of personality that Lwaxana has, and she's hyper protective of Deanna, and that's her only child, and so she wanted Deanna in the absolute safest place possible, and she figured a galaxy class starship, it by itself is a cruise liner in space, okay, and heavily protected at the time. And also, it being the flagship, the Enterprise, it's going to have the best captain, it's going to have the best crew. That is the absolute safest place you can position your daughter who's in Starfleet. At absolute safest place. which just gets into more of, the one thing I always take away from Star Trek is space is incredibly dangerous, because that was the safest ship in the fleet during those years. What was it? The 2380s, the 2380s. And they still went through a lot of crap, right? Like, just watch that show again, and like, imagine living through all that. Anyway, yeah, I think Wesley's kind of traumatized, and that's why he leaves the way he does. Uh, so Deanna's there because I think Lwaxana put her there, and I don't think Deanna knows this. I think Jean Luc knows this. I think Riker knows this. I don't think Deanna knows this. I don't think anyone ever tells Deanna. I don't think Deanna's especially bright. Um, but there's another reason I thought of why it might be that you would put Deanna on the Enterprise, and that's data, because we find out much later on, like, almost 30 years later, that the Zhat Vash exist, and the Zhat Vash, their only mission is to eliminate all artificial life forms and keep them from existing. And we see in Picard season 1 that they have absolutely no problems infiltrating Starfleet to pursue that mission. So uh, they eliminate all the synths and try to do it again in episode in season 1 of Picard, right? So what kept them from eliminating Data? Like I said, Data was the most famous person in the Federation. Pretty sure. Pretty sure even Jean Luc wasn't as famous as Data. And so everyone knew where Data was. The Romulans would be well aware of what and where Data was. So why didn't the Zhat Vash eliminate Data? Deanna. Deanna was there near Data the whole time. And while Deanna isn't a telepath, she is an empath. She would sense the intent to kill Data. The Tal Shiar and Zhat Vash would have known this. And so they wouldn't have been able to get anybody close enough to Data during all those years to eliminate him. And one of the great ironies is it was the Romulans was the reason why Data died in the end. So think about that. So let's see. Yes. If you go back and you watch the Lwaxana episodes, keeping in mind now that Lwaxana Troi was working deals to get the most powerful telepaths in the Federation into Starfleet intelligence, that makes her one of the most powerful people in the Federation, in my opinion. And that would explain why Jean Luc had to treat her the way he did. We're told in the show, because she's a member of the royal family of Beta Z, and, holder of the sacred chalice of Reeks, which is just a moldy old pot, right? That had some sort of symbolic meaning to the Betazoid people. No, she's a major power player. That's what's going on with Deanna Troi. And when needed, you can see Deanna's quite a capable telepath. Um, Deanna, people who have power like to abuse it. So you see this going on a lot with her. But I think the really telling episode that indicates all this is true about Deanna, that she's not just some silly old grandmother type of archetype, is when her and was I saying Deanna? I meant Lwaxana. When her and Deanna get kidnapped by the Ferengis, of course, and she plays the Ferengis. She's quite adept at manipulation when she needs to be, and so the Ferengis, don't manage to rape either one of them in the end, because they're so effectively manipulated. And you see, this is the only time you actually see Lwaxana's brain at 100% mode. She's not quite breaking a sweat, but she's putting in an effort to protect her daughter, and it's very obvious to me. And she's got the situation well in hand, but this is really Lwaxana working. And every other time we see Lwaxana playing, and so that's the significance of that episode. Um, I think that pretty much covers it. Lwaxana Troi is not a silly woman she is a serious power broker, one of the most powerful people in the Federation. That is my theory. I have a few more theories. I'm going to try to spin some videos on, but I think that's where I'll leave it with this one. Deanna was protecting data from the Jotvash, and Lwaxana was protecting Deanna.